Hello everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey everybody, Cantonese Cat here. Didn't think it was going to be a second video tonight, did you? Neither did I. Found something to talk about. Decided to just jump on here, talk about the Rising 3 methods pattern that seems to be happening across different altcoins right now. And for Ethereum, I think it's happening on the Ethereum over Bitcoin chart as well as Ethereum dominance. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. What happens in Rising 3 methods? What happens is you have a very green candle, and you can be followed by 3 inside candles that are usually against the trend of this big green candle. And after about 3 of these candles where we're trying to reverse the pattern and it's not able to do that, basically what happens is bull basically just show their hand, and then they let bears do their thing and try to get them exhausted. And then usually 3 candles later is followed by a bullish engulfing candle that pushes above, beyond the original green candle close. This is a classic Rising 3 methods pattern, and it can be spotted at multiple time frames, sometimes monthly, weekly, daily, hourly. A lot of people use this kind of pattern to try to trade, to try to figure out, where things are going to be. If you ask about the success rate of this pattern, it can be variable. Some people say maybe like upwards to 79%, upwards to around 75% or so. My own experience is not necessarily that successful, because I've been burned by a couple of times. I'll show you what I got burned by. It's really by Ethereum, but I'll show you what I get burned by when I look at this pattern over here. There's an inverse pattern that's called the falling 3 methods, which basically is a big giant red candle followed by 3 bullish candle, but is not able to break out the insideness, is not able to basically reverse that candle, and then it's followed by another big red candle. That's the falling 3 methods. Now, looking at this right now, where do you see this? This is the Ethereum over Bitcoin chart. It's been extremely brutalized for a very, very long time. Absolutely brutalized for a very, very long time. Right? I would say that I'm already spotting kind of like a Rising 3 method here that didn't really work out. Here's like 3 candles over here that you think is going to push through the cloud, because this big giant green candle over there, nope, decided not to. And having this big giant downtrend is really destroying, a lot of folks that are holding Ethereum instead of Bitcoin during this period of time for the entire year of 2024. Right now, what do we have here? Well, we got a Rising 3 methods going on over here. Is that going to work out? Are we going to end up having another downtrend? Not necessarily, because I think that over here is happening at right resistance of the Ichimoku cloud. Here is actually happening more just out in space. I actually think resistance is, way up above. I think it's probably going to end up pushing and work out here in this particular instance. Let me show you some examples in terms of how well the Rising 3 methods could work out from some examples that I've looked at over a period of time. Most recently, you can see that they had worked out very well for Broadcom. Relatively a Rising 3 methods over here is able to show a little bit of decent reversal here. It's not as powerful as some of the other ones that I've been looking at, such as Palantir. You have to see big green candle. Actually, you have like a Rising 2 methods over here. Big green candle, next 2 candle over here. Was not able to really, get above that candle. And the volume was also kind of declining too. The bears were exhausted. Next thing you know, big green candle, Rising 3, and then you have all of these like greenness that happen after that, right? Very, very good example. Another example, you have AMD, which is actually a little bit of a Rising 5 methods. Big green candle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, not able to break below this green candle over here. What happened after that? It's boom, 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 right? That's a Rising 5 that actually worked out very well. Another one that worked out very well is Uber. Green candle, 1, 2, 3, shot up, right? Engulfing all those, very, very bullish. Another one also spotted recently was Alibaba. Green candle over here, 1, 2, 3, boom, boom, right? So you have these kinds of Rising 3 methods here that have really worked out very well previously. Now going back to cryptocurrencies here, I've been burned on this pattern by Ethereum. First of all, just look at the weekly chart, right? That's a Rising 3. That didn't work out. Green. And the next thing you know, followed by all these like crazy red candles over here. That's a rising 3 that really I was spotting. I was like, getting exciting. Nope, decided not to work out, right? That's the 20-25% of the time that doesn't work out. Another example of it didn't work out, look at a monthly here. Look at monthly here. That really got me burned over here. I was really thinking, hey, rising 3 here. Nope, boom, all the way down. That has really burned me, and I'm kind of looking at it, and I'm just like, do I really want to buy into this rising 3 methods for the Ethereum over Bitcoin chart? You also see that with Ethereum dominance, which basically just means a percentage of Ethereum within the overall cryptocurrency market cap. It's been hovering around 9%. Also look like it may be developing a little bit of a bull flag here. Basically, rising 3 is just a bull flag. That's basically what it is. But the rising 3 bull flag is happening in a way that is a little bit more systematic, right? So I'm spotting that here with Ethereum dominance. Am I spotting here in anything else? I'm spotting a little bit here on Doge, right? Shiba, beautiful rising 3 pattern developing here so far. Bonk, you can also argue that Pepe is not really having rising 3. It's just looking kind of like Ethereum or Bitcoin, just kind of holding up in space. Jasmine's got a little bit of a weekly rising 3 methods going on. AVAX Avalanche is doing that. Chainlink is doing that. ADA is doing that. AMP actually looks pretty decent. It doesn't even have a rising 3. It's just consolidating. HBAR is doing that. XLM is doing that. Solana looks pretty decent. It's not even needing to do that. Render is doing that. Fetch AI is looking pretty bullish over here. Even Meta is doing a rising 3 over here. So it's just happening across the board. We look at the others chart, is kind of doing a rising 3 methods over here. Big green candle, 3 kind of downish candle over here. See whether or not we're able to break down. Doesn't really look like it. Primary trend's up, nice bull flag, rising 3. Probably gonna end up pushing through here. You're gonna have some scare here. The night has begun, and they are pushing down a lot of these different crypto here overnight, right? But it's happening in the context of these down candles over here, 3 weeks in a row. For example, Jasmine here, basically being all 3 are inside candle of this candle over here. And looks like it's developing a rising 3 methods here across the board. Is it going to turn out like how Ethereum turned out last year that burned me? Or is this going to turn out like stocks that actually turn out to be very, very, very bullish moving forward whenever this rising 3 methods it's done falling? We will see. But I just wanted to point out this pattern here because this is something that I see across the board. And again, if you look at Bitcoin dominance here on the weekly, it's got a little bit of a falling 3, right? Red here, and then 3 candles over here. Couldn't really reverse that. But again, it's tough to chart. It's tough to say this is going to work out because it's been forming higher highs and higher lows, and it just looks like it wants to just keep going. It's finding support here at the rising Tengen. So regardless, even if Bitcoin dominance is to rise, it doesn't necessarily mean that the altcoins are going to keep dropping. The reason why is because Bitcoin by itself actually looks pretty bullish to me. By bullish, I don't mean that it's just going to keep going up without any kind of significant pullback, because it is a little bit far away from the Tengen and Kijun down here on the weekly, and on the monthly it's also a little bit too far away from the Tengen, But regardless, this is a bullish look to Bitcoin, regardless of the fact that you're going to end up having some pretty, significant pullback that, because you can perceive a pullback to maybe like 100 to 101,000 could be drastic for some. But to me, I think that would just be a breakout of this Gann arc and this Gann angle over here and doing a back test down underneath, right? That's basically what I suspect. Does it have to do that? No, because it didn't really do that here. Once it pushed through, it back tested immediately, kind of like we did a couple of weeks ago, and it just decided to go up. It's been consolidating sideways over here. I made a post a couple of weeks ago, basically said that, hey, here I think Bitcoin's just going to go sideways, and it's probably going to go sideways next week too. The week after that, it's going to do something, probably. Is it going to be another one of these kind of big green candles that just pushes through resistance and keep going up? Or are we going to end up getting rejected? Or does it come back test the 101K or 100K kind of zone here as a back test? Very strong support over here. I don't think it's going to end up shooting down like some people are suspecting. actually looks pretty strong here as potential support. So Nvidia earnings Wednesday after hours. So the market maker could use this to bring Bitcoin down and bring altcoins down, but in a systematic manner, it might not necessarily be anything bearish on a higher time frame. Why do I suspect that Nvidia earnings would potentially bring some bearishness to the market? I don't know whether or not it's going to be the case, but I'm just going to speculate that I think the market makers are not going to make it that easy. And I think that we're probably going to end up back testing the breakout zone over here and close the gap. This is the S&P 500 chart over here. Big giant weekly gap here being left below. I couldn't really find another weekly gap until I went all the way back to like the 1970s. Like there really isn't any weekly gap here that's being left unclosed for a very long time. You're talking about like 5 decades worth. So I think most likely S&P 500 weekly gaps can end up getting closed, and Wednesday after hours with Nvidia earning could be an opportunity to shake out and backtest that. Same thing here with QQQ, big giant gap down here below, right? And that actually could end up sparing the small cap because IWM has already closed the gap here. And that could end up shaking out Bitcoin, but there's a potential that it might actually end up, shaking up Bitcoin, but it might actually end up not being that bad for altcoins. Speculation only. I don't know anything beyond what the charts are telling me, and these things are probability based. They're not definitive, right? I was just showing they're not definitive. But I do want to bring up the fact that you have a rising 3 methods that could work out. And if it does work out, this could be a beginning of something beautiful. Because if you also look in the wave trend oscillator, it looks like we're getting ready for another like up on a lot of these altcoins like Shiba over here, like Dogecoin over here, like Pepe over here, like Jasmy over here, like Avalanche over here, like Chainlink over here, like ADA over here, like AMP over here, like XBAR over here. Oh, a little bit of bearish cross there. But XLM, Solana, I can keep going. But the big dog is Ethereum is looking pretty decent here. So anyway, guys, I just want to share my thoughts on this rising 3 methods thing that I'm kind of spotting here for a while. And one of my followers finally pointed it out. So I figured I'd just make a video about it. Guys, take care. Bye.